You know, Brad Pitt is most likely going to get an Academy Award nomination this year for his role in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And while I didn't love the movie, I loved his performance in it. He was great. But as you look at his career choices over the last, bunch of years, he's been really going for more high caliber stuff. Well, how did he start taking that direction? Well, it turns out the movie that set his direction for going for more high caliber stuff was the movie Troy. Really? Troy? Yeah, because it wasn't good. This is what Brad Pitt has to say, though, about how Troy really helped him change focus and change direction of his career. This is what he had to say. This is coming to us from JoeBlow.com. He writes, I had to do Troy because I guess I can say all this now. It's been years. I pulled out of another movie and then had to do something for the studio. So I was put in Troy. It wasn't painful, but I realized that the way the movie was being told was not how I wanted it to be. I made my own mistakes in it. What am I trying to say about Troy? I could not get out of the middle of the frame. It was driving me crazy. Every shot was like, here's the hero. There was no mystery. So about that time, I made a decision that I was only going to invest in quality stories, for lack of a better term. It was a distinct shift that led to the next decade of films. And as the article goes on to write, right after doing Troy, he did films like Babel, The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford, which, by the way, if you've not seen, you have to see that movie. The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which I believe got him an Academy Award nomination. The Inglourious Bastards, and a bunch of others. This year he's got Ad Astra, which I didn't like, but a bunch of you guys did. And also Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So it's really interesting to hear a movie like this. And by the way, Troy is a movie that has its fans. There are people who enjoy Troy. I'm not one of them, but I didn't think it was a total garbage movie either. Like, it also had some things, going for it. But it's really interesting for me as a fan to hear an actor saying, yeah, I did this one movie and it taught me a lot of lessons and I've course corrected. And since then, even if you don't like some of the movies, like me, I don't like Ad Astra, you can at least go, I could totally see why Brad Pitt would be fascinated by that kind of a movie. And he's made some really good choices with his career. Maybe not big blockbuster choices, but really, really good quality choices with his career ever since that point. Aaron, you're looking at this as an actress yourself. Number one, do you think there's anything inappropriate about Brad Pitt talking in negative terms about a film he's been in, even though it's been that many years since it came out? And can you relate with like seeing him having had one experience and it kind of altered his direction? How do you interpret all that?
Well, no, I think that there's because I've made comments about like Katherine Heigl, and people might say, oh, well, it's the same thing, talking trash about a project. But the difference is that Troy did not break his career. Like he didn't break through with Troy is what I mean. Exactly. He was already one of the biggest stars on the planet. And this was a film that really did not, it didn't hurt his career necessarily, but it didn't necessarily ascend him. Whereas with Katherine Heigl, when she was saying negative things, it was usually about a project that had really changed the course of her career. So I think especially given how much time has passed, and what he's saying makes sense. He's not saying, oh, the script was terrible and I never should have done it. He was saying, listen, this is the reason why I signed on to this picture. I was kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, and this was my experience in it, and it taught me a lot about the types of work that I want to do. So I think what he's saying makes a lot of sense. Additionally, if you look at the timeline, he started executive producing right after that as well. Troy came out in 2004. The first project that he executive produced was in 2006. And then he went on to executive produce some incredible projects, including Eat, Pray, Love and 12 Years a Slave, and a lot of the projects that he was involved in. So not only was he taking control of his career as an actor, he was getting involved on the producing side so that he had even more say in the course that his films that he was a part of, in the course that they took. So I think that he made a very smart decision. And when actors have the ability, when you get to a place in your career where you're allowed to start calling the shots, and certainly at that point he was, he's very smart for doing so and taking more control over his career. And that's why he has the continued success that he has today.
Chris, how do you interpret all this?
I love what Aaron just said, and I love how judicious Brad Pitt is in his quote here, because really what he's saying is nothing particularly negative about the film. It's about, why am I in the middle frame? Why am I this guy? Why am I getting all these beauty shots, essentially. This isn't interesting. And saying something's not interesting from an artistic standpoint isn't a completely negative thing, like Katherine Heigl saying, this movie was trash and everyone I worked with is trash. This was very, very carefully said, I feel. And I think you do get the right to look back on your work and go, you know what? I've grown a lot from this. I've made better choices now. And I'm so happy I had this opportunity so I could grow. And I think that's wonderful. And all of us should do that. You know, I started out as a very different kind of stand-up comedian than the work I do now. And that's important. You don't want to look back at your career from, 10, 20 years ago and go, nope, stay on the course. This is all fine. If you're not growing and challenging yourself in any field, whether it's artistic or otherwise, I mean, what are you even doing? So good for you, Brett.
All right, question is, guys, what do you think about Brad Pitt's comments? Jump down into the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.